Hi, welcome back to Share My Experience, getting to know God through the Bible in a year. We're in Genesis, and hopefully, you've been able to read chapters 4 to 7 because that's where I'll be starting from. And my opening shot will just be that, God is just following on from his character of being merciful that I pointed out in the last episode, is that he was with Cain and Abel. Just shows he's merciful because their parents were trifling, but he was still with them. I think in terms of the offering, what I got from reading the earlier chapters was that God probably rejected Cain's offering because it came from the ground which he had cursed. Remember that he cursed the ground for Adam, and Abel, who by that time was an animal rearer, maybe like a shepherd or something, brought the first fruit of his lamb without blemish. And what does that tell you? Who is Jesus? Jesus is the Lamb of God without blemish. So I feel like Abel was leaned more into God's heart because he was doing something that, pleased him. And here I said, Abel, on the other hand, brought an offering that was symbolic of redemption, the best portion of the firstborn lambs from his flock. He appeared to be a shepherd. And one thing I do know is that God has a soft spot for shepherds because he himself is the good shepherd. And remember when I spoke about creation story that he went to the shepherds first. So maybe Abel had a good thing going for him in that regard. What I also learned is that God's response to Cain when he was dejected after his offering was rejected was a warning of his impending sin. He knew where Cain's anger would take him. And so when he warned him using those words, if you do what is right, go back and read it and think about this, it will make sense. And I think that it probably took a long time for Cain to kill Abel. Why? Because when God pronounced punishment on him, he said, "Oh, this is too harsh for me. When other people see me, they will kill me." And I was thinking, which other people? Because basically, it was only them and their parents, in the world at that time, or his siblings at least. So why would anybody see him and kill him? I mean, I could be wrong here, but I thought about that, so I feel like time had already gone and they had replenished the earth even more. So there were people that probably didn't know him, you see. If we follow the sequence, Adam and Eve were the only ones on earth. Oh, I've already said that. Oh, sorry. Do you ever wonder, where did Cain's wife come from? Because when I think about it, that means he probably had married his sister. Yeah. Anyway, going forward in the chapter, Enoch was favored of God and was raptured at 365 days. He didn't get to the 900 plus years. Now, this is the chapter where they started to talk about each person, their son, and how long they lived for. And man was living for almost 1,000 years at this time. But Enoch, who was favored of the Lord, didn't live up to 900 plus years like others. But get this, his son, Methuselah, was the oldest living man because he died at 969 years. So that shows you something of the pattern of God. Noah appeared to have been the oldest one to become a father because he became a father at 500, guys. Did you notice that fishes and the creatures of the sea weren't included in the animals that were sent into the ark? God said, call all the animals that crawl on the earth and birds, but there were no fish. But he destroyed everything on earth, meaning that the fish didn't even survive, even though it was with water. Curious, eh? God commanded Noah to bring a pair of most animals, but 7 pairs, that's 14, of the animals approved for food and sacrifice. What I do know is that 7 is the number of perfection. And so, go figure. But more interestingly is that humans were now eating meat. And God approved. When did this start? 7 pairs of birds were also included into the ark. But like I said, sea creatures weren't. And I wonder, because in chapter 7, when God mentioned all the things that needed to go to the ark, there was nothing from the sea. Anyway, in all of these chapters, here's my takeaway of God's character in this chapter. God's mercy is long, and he's slow to anger and abiding in love. Nothing we as humans do is ever a surprise to him. And when he takes action, it's usually for reasons we don't fully comprehend. I'd written earlier that he said he showed mercy after Adam and Eve sinned by not destroying everything and starting over. Here, we see him getting ready to do just that. But the reason behind it is clear. In chapter 6, 1-8, we hear that the Nephilim or the Nephilites had taken over earth and started procreating with the women of the earth. So they were creating what I believe were the mythical gods, maybe the Zeuses and the Greek mythical gods of those days. And these people, well, I can't even call them people, but these angel and human hybrids had diluted the human bloodlines. And I believe they did this in hopes of thwarting God's plan for sending the Messiah to save mankind. So imagine if there were it continued and we were just a race of superhuman hybrids, then we wouldn't need Jesus, and then everything would just go to a mess, because I believe that the sons of God, i.e. the angels who were on the earth at that time, were the ones that were driven out of heaven along with Lucifer. So they weren't good angels. So these creatures that they were creating weren't good creatures. Things will not always make sense, but we trust him. If we trust him, we'll see that he always has our best interests at heart. Even though it may look like he isn't working or he has abandoned us, he never does. So my advice or my takeaway from that is trust in his timing and in him always, even when things don't seem to make sense. Trust me, there's always a real reason behind it. So I hope you enjoyed today's lessons, and I would look forward to hearing what you discovered from reading Genesis 4-7. And I'll catch you again soon, where we will talk about chapters 8-11. Have a great evening.